Hello. In this video, we will present two keywords, break and continue. Let's first look at the break keyword in this example here. So let's change this to 3. So you have this number is now 0 to begin with, and the sum is initialized with 0. And number now, if it's less than 20, so we're going to have number is now becoming 1. And this add number to sum, 1 to sum. Sum is greater than or equal to 3, that's a false. So this break is not executed. And then we go back here and look at the number, and number is 1. So the next one, the number is going to become 2. And now you add the number 2 to sum was 1, so now it becomes 3. So this sum is 3 is greater than 3, that is true. So here is break. So what happens to break? Break will break out of the loop, so gets to execute the next statement. So that is a break for. Break is to break out of the loop. Now let's look at continue. So I'm going to change this. Let's change this to 2. Number is 2. So number is less than 20, and number now becomes 1. And this number is equal to 2, or number is equal to 11. That's all false. Continue is not executed. So now we're going to do sum, and number is added to sum. So that sum is 1. So now go to number is less than 20, and number now becomes 2. So this case is true. Number is equal to 2. Execute continue. So what happens? Continue. Continue will break out of the iteration. So going to move all the way to the end of the iteration. So that is continuous for. So this line here, 8 is skipped. That is continue for. The break and continue can be used to simplify coding. So for example, here in this program, we're going to find the smallest factor other than 1 for integer n. So here is the integer n, the input. Prompt the user to enter an integer greater than or equal to 2. So we look at if 2 is a factor. So you can write this loop here, why this factor is less than or equal to n. So we're going to check if this is a factor. If we find it, we break it. We already know this is the smallest the factor. So there's no need to continue to stay in the loop. So that is the break. Now, if you don't use the break, you can rewrite the code using this. We're going to introduce this Boolean variable font. Y factor is less than or equal to 0 and not font. So we're going to continue to test this. If we have this factor and remainder factor is equal to 0. So now this font is true. So when you go back to this condition, because this not font will be false, that's all. So you have the smallest factor. So you can rewrite the code without using break, but sometimes using break and continue can simplify the coding. Now please note that some programming languages have a Goto statement. The Goto statement indiscriminately transfers control to any statement in the program and executes it. This makes your program vulnerable to errors. The break and continue statements in Python are different from Goto statements. They operate only in a loop statement. The break statement breaks out of the loop, and the continue statement breaks out of the current iteration. So it has a very narrow scope, and it will not transfer or control anywhere in the program. That could cause a problem. Programming is a creative endeavor. There are many different ways to write code. In fact, you can find a smallest factor using a rather simple code as follows. Here, you can write this code here. Factor begin with 2. Now, y factor is less than or equal to n, and n remainder factor is not 0. Now you go to the next factor. Try to see that when this is now is false, so you know you have a factor. That is all for this section on the keywords break and continue. See you on the next video.